I was thinking about how we talk about the stories we carry, how we inherit them, and how it becomes our reticular activating system picking up on cues because that's the way we really see. So we ignore the data that doesn't fit that story.
Okay.
So, one of the tools that I really like to use to get behind is astrology and human design.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because how do I know who I really am? If
Mm.
these are the stories, how can I how can I approach that from the perspective of, well, what parts of this is really true versus what parts of this is OPC?
Mhm.
And
Okay.
yes, I can come to you and I can say, "Hey, Annette, this is what I heard," right? Because that's what we said. Find a trusted advisor, talk through it, right?
Right.
That's what we said in our last episode. Ask yourself, is this really true? But but that only gets us so far. How do we get even further underneath that? That's what human design was for me,
Okay.
right? It was the realization that there were aspects of myself that I always thought were problems that were really it's who I meant to be, and the problems that were showing up were meant to show up.
Mm.
So, an aspect of my human design is that I'm a line 5 profile.
Okay.
So, what that means is from a human design perspective, people project onto you. You are
Mhm.
a partial mirror for the things that they collectively, they want. So you're either reflecting back things they don't want or things that they do want, but they don't really see you. They see what you create or what's possible for them if you're there. And so what happened for me was it kind of opened up this whole realization that the experiences I was having had nothing to do with me personally. It had to do with this expectation that people have of me. So the more I tried to get away from that, the worse the problem got, right? Because it's never going to go away. It's part of who I am. So part of a line 5 is that you are the solution. You create global solutions, right? So
Okay.
people sense that about you.
Mhm.
And when they sense that about you, it's just an air about you, right? And sometimes people don't want the change that you're bringing. So even though they want a change, they may not want
Mm.
the change. And so then you become the person who ends up creating the problem. Do you follow what I'm saying or not really? You have that
Uh,
look that says, I don't really follow what you're saying.
I'm trying to make sure that I do follow what you're saying so that I can understand. Maybe I can echo it back to you. So, part of your human design is that people can see a path forward when they're in your presence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So then it becomes problematic. Explain that part again.
It can become problematic because
Okay.
um, it's a projection. It's not really true. And no one comes to me and says, oh, Sandra, you can solve X for us. So I don't have a clear expectation of what their expectations are, or I don't have a clear sense of what their expectations are. I just know that there's a trust there.
Mm,
They don't even realize that they're doing it. It's just kind of like an aura that you project, and so
okay.
therefore, it's like, "Oh, she's gonna solve my problem. How is she gonna solve my problem? Is it a problem I want solved?" Right? And so they have a set of expectations that they never express. Well, what happens when 2 people have a set of expectations? Nobody's on the same page.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so, "Oh, I didn't know that that's what you wanted from me. How could you not know that that was what I wanted from you?" Well, because you didn't voice it. And if you had
Yeah.
voiced it, I might have said, "No," right? Or,
Correct.
"I see the problem a particular way, so this is how I want to solve it." Well, that's not how I want the change to occur. Yes, I want
Mhm.
change, but that's not how I want change to occur. And who brought the change? You did. So who's the problem? You are. And so once I realized that this is what happens with line 5, I went, "Okay, I can frame all of my experiences where they're challenging through that lens now." And so for me, it was like a light bulb moment. So I did engage in therapy for many, many years, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
they could sit there and they could say all they wanted to about, "Well, that's not yours to carry, Sandra," or "That wasn't yours," or "Is that really true?" Or but
Yeah.
deep down inside, I carried that because in every interaction I have this set of experiences that keep happening. And one of the things that we talked about was when something keeps happening and you're the common denominator,
Yeah.
maybe you're the problem, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's harder to get rid of that. And when I realized, oh, this is part of my human experience because this is part of my design, there
Mhm.
was an aspect of me that went, it was like a whole bunch of pieces kind of fell in together. And,
Yeah.
you know, like in Tetris when they fall into place and then like 5 lines disappear all at once, it was kinda like that. It was like, "Woof." Now, that doesn't mean that what was left was easy to deal with. I mean, I still
Mhm.
had a role in that process.
Sure.
But what I understood as a result of that process was that there were a set of things that I needed to do differently.
I love this. So, to deal with the stories that other people told you about you that became part of who you were, you went to a tool, human design, and I don't know that we've talked much
No.
about human design here on the show. I know it's a huge, impactful thing in your life, also very helpful with mine. Thank you, Sandra. So, how did you discover human design, first of all? And then once you knew your your design and the specifics about it, you dove deep into it, I know for sure. Um, how did it help you unravel these stories?
Mm, yeah. So, how I came across human design was kind of bizarre. I bumped up against it a couple of times, and
Mhm.
I was in the middle of trying to decide whether I wanted to take a class. And somebody said to me, "Well, have you checked your design?" And I was like, "Pardon?" And she's like, "Well, have you checked your design? Because I checked my design, and so I know that this is right for me." And I was like, "Okay, what the heck is design?" And so I went and I had a look at it, and
Mm,
I like, "Okay." Now I'm staring at this, really weird picture of, like, a bunch of squares and a bunch of numbers and things lit up and other things lit up, and I'm like, "Well, how the heck is this supposed to help me decide whether the course is the right thing for me to do or not?"
mhm.
It makes no sense to me, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, this was all before AI, right? Long before AI. So I
Long.
started doing a few Google searches, and,
Mhm.
I can get lost in research really
Yeah.
quickly, which is another
Yeah.
aspect of my design. So I thought, "Oh, I can't afford to go down this rabbit hole right now."
Yeah.
So I put it aside, and then I went on a retreat years later, I went on a retreat, and, my friend Shannon, who you know as well,
Mhm.
um, did a little mini human design reading for all of us, and she said some things, and I thought, "Oh, interesting, I didn't know that about myself," and I kinda went, "Huh," and then, it was a little bit later that I Oh, I ran into somebody on, social media, and I started speaking with her, and she's like, "I'm just getting certified in human design. Can I do a little reading for you?" And I was like, "Okay, this keeps coming up. This is so
Mhm.
frustrating. This keeps coming up." But when she did the reading for me, she's like, "Do people project onto you? Do you, like, carry other people's stories?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. Okay, so how do you know that this is so true about me?" And it was just that. It was just like, okay, I kept bumping up against this tool, and I thought,
Mhm.
I gotta dig deep into this." And once I started digging deep, I was completely hooked.
Wow.
And the more hooked I've been with human design, and now I've been working with my design now for, like, actively working for at least 5 years.
Okay.
And, the more I work with it, the more I realize how impactful it can be if you spend the time to understand, and how very difficult it is to get rid of what we call conditioning, meaning that we've been told there are ways to behave that are the antithesis of how we were designed to be.
Mhm.
And so the more I try to release that conditioning, or at least become aware of it, the more I realize how deep those stories really are. So one of the things about me, and so the other aspect of human design, of course, is that it's based on, I say of course, but maybe our listeners don't know,
They
it's
probably don't.
based on astrology. And, and so I've always been fascinated with astrology from a very early age. And the more I dug into human design, the more I dug into astrology. And now, having gone back into astrology in a very deep way, I am fascinated by not just what the my natal astrology tells me about me,
Mhm.
but also how perfectly it echoes the, situations that I have struggled with the most.
Interesting.
And one of the things that I really love about astrology is that when I take your astrology, Annette, and my astrology, and I put
Mhm.
them together, it says, well, here's some things that where there's natural synergy, and here's some things where you see things very differently or you communicate things very differently. And here's where the tension points are going to be in your relationship. And I think, wow, isn't that interesting? Right? Because we have a
Mhm.
tendency to look at tension in a relationship as personal,
It's hard not to.
but our astrology says it has nothing to do with you and me. It has to do with the way, things lined up when we were born,
Mm.
the way you tackle problems, the way I tackle problems, the way we see a situation, right? The way we express ourselves and communicate. So, if that's all in our astrology, it can't be Annette and Sandra. It's not
Okay.
personal. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It does. It does make sense.
And so it gives me a new lens to look at things through and say, "Oh, let's get curious about this."
Yeah.
Always say, when I learned about my human design, so many things, like, when I really dove in and I really understood it, um, and I looked at my design and my husband's design side by side, I went, "Oh my god, I exhaust him."
Would he say that about you himself or no?
Well, I think he doesn't have to since he's asleep on the couch at 7, and I'm still going at, like,
Mhm.
4 in the morning, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so an aspect of me kinda went, oh, now that I look at our relationship through the lens of his design and my design, some things start to really kinda coalesce, and it's not him. It's kinda like, um, sometimes I talk about, we all know what happens when the needle in our car gets to E.
Yeah. You can't go anywhere.
Well, if you need gas,
Hopefully, you can stop for it, yes.
Right. But if you don't put the gas in, what happens? You stop going.
Me too.
Does it make sense to stand in front of the car when it stops going and, yell at it and get mad and cry and say, "You always do this when I have a big project. I can't count on you. Why do you do this to me?" No. We're on a timeline. We need to go. Come on. What? No, it's silly. We would never think of that, right?
Right. Right, right.
And yet, that's exactly what I was doing, right? I was getting upset and frustrated because he was asleep and I was still going. And that was his design. It had nothing to do with how he felt about me or
The
um
timeline.
yeah. So I love this tool as a way to maybe look at things from a different perspective and provide some clarity. Does it all make sense? I think like all things, you have to use your own judgment.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can just excuse everything and just say, oh, well, it's not my fault because blah, blah, blah.
It's not a crutch. It's a tool to see yourself as you were born into this world and say, "Oh, this makes sense for me. Oh, this doesn't make sense for me. Oh, this is why these things are so difficult."
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
more I dove back into astrology as a result of the work that I had been doing in human design,
Mhm.
um, I realized I learned about the ascendant. So
Okay.
the ascendant is the exact degree of zodiac that was rising on the horizon at the moment that you were born.
Okay.
So I'm a Scorpio ascendant, and Scorpio is very intense energy.
Correct.
It's a burn the house down so we can rebuild it kind of energy.
Mm. Okay.
And suddenly I kind of went, oh, oh, look at that. Another aspect of my character that I've had stories around. "You're so intense, Sandra. You're so impatient. You just wanna run through it and, like, you're not willing to listen to, why we do the things that we do. You just wanna wreck it and rebuild it. You walk into every house we look at, and you wanna redo the kitchen."
Yes, please. Okay, I get that. Yeah. But this is the what was coming up because these were the kinds of stories that were told about you to say you were mean, you were controlling, you were, go back to episode 42 where we talk about the stories and Sandra shares everything that were roadblocks to her in her life and career. But that was a main one, right? You're mean, you're too intense. I can't work with you. You gotta notch it down. You're too much.
Yes, and I never saw that in myself, not because I was blind,
Mhm.
but because I know my whole self, and I know how sensitive I am,
Yes, true.
and how deeply I feel what people say about me. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was like, "Ugh, how can people say those things about me?" But when I learned about the ascendant, I kinda went, "Oh, this is the aspect that people see. This is what they feel. This is the energy that I inhabit before I even say a word." I'm just standing there looking at people. I haven't said a thing, and they're already telling me, "You're really intense." Whoa! You don't even know me. How can you say that about me? But that's what the ascendant tells us. So now I can choose differently, and I do choose differently. So when I have difficult news to deliver, and I
Mhm.
know this about myself, that's when I bring Annette with me.
I don't I don't know if I'm your difficult news deliverer myself. I will do it, but I hate it.
But there's an aspect of you, right? That people and you and I have talked about this because there was a
Ad
period of time
nauseam,
that
yes.
you had your wrong birth date or birth time, right?
Birth time. Oh my gosh, Sandra. Yeah.
And
And
so
that's probably why, like, many different assessments that I had done in the past, right? Um, I think the Enneagram has something to do with birth
very
time.
much.
And I was like, "This is not me." I kept going between, like, 3 different aspects, and that the person I was taking the test with was an expert. She's like, "I've never really seen anything like that. I suspect one of your pieces of information is off." And then I give you my, because human design, you need a few pieces of information from people, right? You need where they were born,
Yep.
you need their date of birth, and their time of birth.
Yes.
So I had all of those pieces of information, and then when I looked at my birth certificate, which had the time, I know some don't now, um, it did not coincide with the story that my mother told me. And then I couldn't get to the end of it. Like, I was born before the time when my dad was allowed to be in the room with my mom. So I didn't have anybody to corroborate that story. My godmother is like, "I don't know. I just remember I was excited." I'm like, "Okay, that's not helpful. Very cool, but not helpful." And then, my grandmother, my mom's mom, has this big, like, family book. I guess what other people probably put in their Bible, she had in, like, a big 3-ring binder. Hello, Francis. Anyways, so we were looking through it. It came up lately. We found it at my mom's house again, and we were showing my cousin, and he's looking through it. And so one thing stood out to him, which is you have everybody's social security numbers. Like, honestly, my grandmother had everybody's social security numbers.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Why would she have that? Why would she have it in the book?" And then it struck me that my grandparents used to always buy us savings bonds as
Oh.
gifts, and to cash them in, you would have to have a social security number associated with it. But then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, everybody else's birth time is in there. How come I didn't think to look up mine?" And then I text Sandra, like, on a Thursday night, I text her this random number, right? And she's like, "Is this message meant for me?" I'm like, "Yes." And she says, "What is this number?" I'm like, "You know what it is." And then I could see, even though it was over text, I could feel the light bulb go off. And she's like, "This is your
Ah.
real birth time, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yes, it is." So then Sandra reruns my chart, and now I'm like, "Yes, yes, those are the pieces that are super dominant in me, and those are the pieces that I felt every other assessment of me before then had really fallen short."
And one of the things it says about you is that people feel naturally connected to you. They feel and they sense from you that warmth, that friendship, that connection. Then they learn other aspects of you, but they sense that about you, and that's why I say, if I were going to deliver intense news or difficult news, knowing that people don't feel that way about me, now I would choose to bring you with me, right?
Thank you.
Because there's a natural way that you soften, right, the room, and that is so useful for me to understand about myself. And it's also useful for me to understand about myself that not only am I intense, but I want the depth. I want to go in and figure out why.
Yeah.
Why? 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 What does it mean? Right?
That's your rabbit hole tendency.
It is. It is.
Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. Well, so how does your deep research, need to know everything, also coincide with
This 5.
this? We have to get through it now, and let's just do it. Let's tear it all apart. Because in my opinion, those seem at odds with each other.
They are. And so
Yeah.
the beautiful part about human design is that your profile, which is what we're describing right now, is intended to inhabit 2 different and very opposite poles of energy. And so
Okay.
what you are intended this whole process is how do I balance that tension?
Mm, great.
So, on the one hand, I need the depth, I need the foundation, I need to know why, I need to really do the research to feel comfortable stepping out. And you have that one too.
I do, yes, but I tend to know that I don't necessarily need it because if I can get in front of you and establish a connection, that comes.
Oh, look at
So
that.
I
That
don't
connection piece again.
yeah, I don't rest on it too much because I figure like I'll get in there and the situation will lend itself to learning the things that I need to know.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Um, and that's one of the aspects of a number one is you need that deep research. You need that foundation. You want to know. The reason our ones, you and mine, show up differently is that the other aspect of your profile is a three,
Okay.
and that is that you learn by trial and error. You're the experimenter, right? So, oh, that didn't work. You're constantly refining. Oh, let me try it this way. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, what do I need to do differently next time? Oh, okay. Well, let me pull these things out. Let me go do a little bit of research around that. Let me go and investigate this other aspect. Does that resonate for you?
Mhm. Yeah, correct. That's how I operate.
Absolutely. So you're the
I'm
refiner.
sure that's no fun for people that I work with, or, I bet that's absolutely no fun for direct reports that have worked on my team. Yeah.
And so, and I distinctly recall because you also talk about a beautiful tool that you use that I absolutely am in love with this tool called the Personal User Manual.
Mhm.
And
Love it.
I wonder how much of what drove that process of creating that for you
Mhm.
really kind of was around this 3 aspect. Do you wanna talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I can. So, I had a team that on paper was amazing, and the people in it, I wanna say, were amazing team members, smart, experienced, creative, and really solid people that showed up for themselves, the company we worked for, and their team members. And we were not getting a darn thing done, Sandra. It was a lot of meeting and not a lot of action. And I thought I was the only one that was noticing. So I'm like, okay, well, we're a new team. We were thrown together. I've got to give it a little bit of time. But then my boss said something to me, which is like, when will you have XYZ? I don't even remember now. And I'm like, "Oh, goodness, other people can see it too. Now I've gotta figure this out." And again, there was my test and retest, give it more time. It will find a way. That's how I was handling it. And then I'm like, "No, that's not gonna work." So then I really dove deep. I'm like, "What kind of communication tools can we use to make better decisions, to know each other better?" And what I found was this concept of a personal user manual. It is not my own concept. I did not create it. I learned about it on LinkedIn, of course.
Good.
Plug for going back to episodes 37, 38, and 39 to
That's why
learn
we
more
love
about
LinkedIn.
why we love LinkedIn. Um, and what it was is a series of questions which can be customized to what you need for your team. But it talks about how you respond to expectations, how you communicate, how you make decisions. Do you need more time? And then you take the time to reflect on your own answers. You debrief with your team saying, "Hey, this is kind of me. This is my personal user manual. This is how I work." And then you go ahead and learn about their styles. And then we store the documents in a comfortable place and we can access them when we were facing big meetings or decisions. But what came out of it was there was a team member on my team like me, Sandra, that was like, okay, let's iterate however many times we need to. Let's make decisions on the fly. And then there was a team member that was very deliberate and wanted all the information first, She wanted to look at it and research it on her own before making a decision, and she didn't want to be blindsided with a change happening right now. And that was the key piece of information that we needed to slow the scroll, I guess, and to be prepared ahead of time, usually a day ahead of time. The agenda had to be posted 24 hours before. And if you wanted to talk about something, you added it to the agenda by then. If it wasn't added by then, it went on the next week's agenda. And then we could make decisions because I already knew how I felt about it, but more importantly, she knew how she felt about it. And then I could make a decision in the moment based on what she was comfortable with or trying what she was comfortable with, and then moving forward. And we really got through so many more decisions so much quicker. It was very helpful. Mhm.
Yeah. And what I find interesting is now with hindsight, you can go back and say, "Oh, look at me. That was my 3.
Yeah, right.
That was my
I
3."
didn't know that then.
Right. Exactly. So how helpful would it have been for you in that moment to have known, "Oh, I'm a person who likes to iterate, to
Mhm.
experiment, what's working, what's not working, and to constantly refine,
Yeah,
sometimes on the fly,
always on the fly.
always on the fly," which is why you and I work so great together, right? But
Yes,
but
there's
for other
balance.
people, it doesn't, right? And
True.
so now where you could have been carrying a story about yourself or what we will eventually talk about, a story about that other person,
Mm,
you can now see through the lens of, "This is my style. This is how I work. This is how I'm designed to work, and there's nothing wrong with me." I think that's the biggest thing is there's nothing wrong with me,
correct.
and there's
I
nothing
am
wrong with
just
the other.
different.
Yeah, I just work
Yeah,
differently.
differently.
So, human design is a beautiful tool that you can use to kinda say, "Oh, all those things that people tell me about myself, that's just who I am."
And how much more easier would it be for everybody to have more self-love, self-compassion if we all knew who we were and knew how to work within our very special design
Mhm,
and express what we need?
mhm.
Gosh, it would be so much so much easier because, yes, I agree with you, those stories we carry about who we are, what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to behave, they most feel uncomfortable when they just aren't who we are.
Yes. But how do we
I mean
figure out who we really are?
Sandra, I feel like we figure it out much too late. It comes up much too late. It happens when we're struggling with something major, right? A mental health issue, a health issue, a work issue,
A
a
relationship issue.
relationship issue. And really, let's be honest, all of those things we just talked about before are all issues because it's how we work with others, how we speak with others, how we handle others. And so, how can we bring this part of the discussion ahead of time, right? I mean, maybe we don't need the 3rd grade standardized testing. Do they still use the Scantron sheets? Probably not. I'm very
Yes, I
old.
do.
Do they really? Okay. And maybe we need a discussion about how you were designed, how your time and place of birth plays a huge factor into who you are.
There's another aspect of this too, and it came up recently in a oh my gosh, I'm gonna say it again, LinkedIn post I saw just yesterday. And that is, you know, we live inside of relationships.
We really do.
So all of us have relationships of one sort or another, right?
Yes.
There isn't anybody who isn't dealing with a relationship, whether it's somebody that you just met at the grocery store, the cashier, or the person who just cut you off in traffic. There's a relationship. It might be momentary, it might be
Mhm.
long lasting, but we all live inside and we learn inside of these relationships.
Yes.
But those relationships exist inside systems.
Correct.
And sometimes the system requires that people behave a particular way.
Of
So
course.
when I call other people's crap, I'm not just talking about the things that you've been told about yourself in relationship to the relationships that you're walking in. I'm also talking about the systems in which you need to inhabit.
Correct.
So part of the beauty that comes from understanding who we truly are at, say, a design level, if I'm a person who's a 3, who's a constant refiner and an experimenter, and I'm working in a system that requires me to know how I'm going to handle the situation, be consistent about the way I handle that situation, and not experiment, how successful do you think you're going to be in that system?
I don't think at all. It's gonna be a
Right,
nightmare for me.
right.
And Sandra, this brings up a really good point, and I'm wondering if we stop the conversation here and pick it up in the next episode. Um, but knowing ourself, then we can evaluate the system
Yes.
that we're entering into, right? So is this I'm going on a job interview. Is this place, is this job culture, is this company going to be a system that I can operate in successfully? Is this
Yes.
team gonna be a good system for me? Is driving 45 minutes from Akron to Cleveland good system for me? You can evaluate all of those because you know some truths about yourself. What ends up happening is when we tell ourselves a story that I can make the system work. And then you're feeling lost, drained, burnt out, whatever it is. And so that is such a beautiful thought that you've brought to my awareness because I think what happens is we don't know ourselves. And then we say that we're willing to tolerate the system. And then that toleration of the system is just so against who we are. And I'm not saying as a bulk thing, but the system I say I can tolerate, 6 months from now becomes completely intolerable. And then I
And we
have
make
all
it
kinds
about
of
ourselves.
yeah, correct, and then we make it about a failure. "Oh, I'm such a failure. Oh, I'm a terrible person. Oh, this." And it's not about you. You just are not made for that particular system. There is a system that works well for you. You have to stop and evaluate it and find it. And then also, I guess, the patience that comes from understanding this place isn't the right one for you and waiting for the right one to come, which sometimes doesn't happen on our timeline or expected timeline.
Yeah, and I think the other aspect that came up in this conversation on LinkedIn for me was it was around leadership, right? And maybe the person that I'm reporting to is somebody that I can work well with, somebody that I gel, somebody that I trust. But if I want to move up, I'm going to have to lead inside of this system. And so
Yes.
maybe the reason that this particular position is good for me right now is because the person above me is filtering all that system related stuff,
Out of the
right?
way.
And now I find myself leading and I realize, oh, this system will not support me as a leader because of who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And we rarely look at it that way.
Yeah.
And I think one of the beauties that can happen from understanding our design is understanding where our pressure points are going to be.
Yeah. Mhm. That's a gorgeous thought. So I say we stop. Let's go ahead and hold the rest of the conversation. And then next time, let's talk about evaluating your design within the system.
Mm,
And I'm sure other goodies will come from that, but let's plan on talking about that. And then we'll take it from there.
it's a good thing we hit record.
It is a good thing we hit record. Oh my gosh. Well, Sandra, thank you. I love that we talked about human design today. And if you want to learn more about human design and potentially, and you should, I can vouch for her, work with Sandra to understand more about your human design so that you can operate in the systems that were designed or asked to design or
Or
asked to
really
operate
clearly
them.
identify what's OPC for you.
Yeah, really. Then you should join our newsletter. So
Mm,
head over to exposingthehiddenreality.com, join our newsletter, and you will receive some insider goodies and maybe an invitation to understand more about your design. See you next time, Sandra.
lovely. Awesome.